Hello, guys and girls. The program you are about to hear will be both fun and educational, but it is not a substitute for medical advice. Although we are doctors, we are not your doctors. Hello, and welcome to Travel Medicine. As always, I'm your friendly neighborhood internal medicine doc, Dr. J.
Hey guys, this is Dr. Santosh, your pediatric infectious disease doc and researcher.
Happy Spooktober. Happy return of Travel Medicine to the airwaves for our 9th season. I know it's the second episode, but maybe somebody missed one or they're playing catch up. I just want you to feel welcome whenever you come back, whether it's right away or you find us a few weeks later. We appreciate you.
Please feel welcome because this is turning into desperation at this point, and
we want you sticking around because, as you're going to learn, life expectancy is dropping, and we really need to hold on to all our audience members. There's only so much market share out there, Santosh. So, surviving listening audience, welcome to Spooktober. It is an alternate week, which means a couple things. It's October. Yes. Which means this is going to still be at least a little spooky themed as long as I can keep that going. It also means as an alternate week,
into Christmas, yes.
It also means that as our first alternate week of the season, it's time for everybody's favorite segment, Kermit Arms Up in the Air, another Journal Club. Yay!
Yay! Oh, it never gets old. 9 seasons of Kermit Arms.
But this week, the motif is body horror, meaning things that make you go, ah!
Now, for those of you who don't know your horror genres, body horror are the classically movies, the type of movies that you see that really overrepresent just gross surgery, taking one body part off and transplanting it to another part of your body, and then a lot of gore coming out and mutations that sprouting extra limbs and faces melting off, like lots of stuff where the body is manipulated to make you go either or something like that.
So we're probably not going to get quite that graphic. It's the Journal Club, not the Halloween episode, but all of these involve some sort of alterations to the body that may cause a little bit of unease. But as this is a spooky episode, let's start with life expectancy in the U.S. is dropping for the second year in a row.
Yeah.
And according to the article that first brought this to my attention, it is in fact the worst decline in a century. Now, we're only about 20 years into this century, so...
Yeah, but I do hope that all of our wonderful folks do come and check out our links and the show notes and stuff, especially to fact check us, follow us on Facebook and Instagram and fact check us. But I think the big thing that really freaks you out when you're looking at this is to actually see the first graph that's published on here from the NCHS. It is not pretty.
So the National Center for Health Statistics has stated that based on available evidence, Americans who were born in the year 2021 can expect to live on average only 76 years.
Yeah.
Now, in 2019, the life expectancy for those born that year was 78.8 years. And before that, it was around, I think the highest we've been was about 80.5 years.
Yeah, we had come to, kind of a nice peak. There's these small little ups and downs. and then we're going to talk about discrepancies in terms of gender, or at least biological sex, and your kind of ethnic origin as well. But yeah, we had reached this beautiful peak when everyone was not fully taking care of themselves, but there was a good social safety net. There was lots of awareness about exercise and diet. And in general, the big, huge health killers were kind of coming under control. And then, yeah, these last 2 years, we fell off a goddamn cliff. 2 years doesn't sound like a lot,
but what do you
suppose
could have happened between 2019 and now?
Yeah.
I mean, if we really dive into this graph, what do I learn from it? I'm looking at 3 lines. I see that consistently female life expectancy is higher than male by about 4 to 5 years.
Yeah,
it's a big gap. That the total life expectancy for humans in general is higher than that for any individual male member of the species.
Yes.
By about 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that the 2.7 life years of decline that were lost between 2019 and 21 is the biggest drop in life expectancy since the 1920s. So there's the century that they're talking about. The last time we had a drop anywhere close to that was about a 2.5-year drop around, let's see, 1918 to 1920. Weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
It's all
Santosh
lining up.
It's so weird that at 2 ends of a century, both around the 20s, there'd be a 2-year drop in life expectancy over 2. What could cause that?
All right. Well, we are a science-based medicine type of podcast, right, Josh? We focus in on evidence and all these kind of things. That being said, I believe Sagittarius was falling and Mercury was in retrograde. Oh shit! Sorry, wrong notes. Sorry,
I've never been so angry in my life.
Sorry, that was for my It's for something else that I'm working on. Anyway,
if you're writing an article for Goop, I'm gonna punch you right through the radio.
Oh, it would be so awful if that was the way I told you that I was totally Dr. Ozing it from now on. I would feel so heartbroken if that's how you found out, was that I mixed up my show notes with my Goop podcast. No, absolutely not. That was completely farcical. Yeah, no, we all heard of the Spanish flu, right? Although it had nothing to do with Spain, right? There was a pandemic, and now we are suffering through a terrible global pandemic. Both of them were respiratory illnesses. Both of them moved viciously fast. And both of them, there was the biggest factor in there. There was economic upheaval, right? And so you had poverty compounding on top of that, and you had some degree of resistance to the established medical wisdom, whatever that was, governmental or else. And in our case, Josh, the latest one, even though those vaccines saved millions and millions of lives, there were millions more that were lost because they weren't vaccinated in time or they refused to be vaccinated. It really hurt us. I think that was one of the number one causes.
And the thing that was affected was the long-term effects of those who survived the disease. If you died from the disease, that takes you out of the life expectancy equation right there. We no longer expect you to live. But if you survived, when you're looking at things like long-term lung disease or now long COVID, that's where you're really seeing the drop-off in life expectancy. More people struggle with diabetes, obesity, heart disease, all of which are major risk factors of dying from COVID, not just in the immediate infection period, but also following. And not every ethnic group has been affected equally by this. That 2.5 year drop is an average. Native Americans, Alaskan natives, have had a drop of up to 6.5 years of life lost since early 2020. So their average life expectancy is only 65, which was, what you expected to live as an American in 1944.
Yeah,
Storming Normandy.
that ranks among third world countries. It is god awful.
Whereas African Americans are living to only about 70 in 2021. And the longest live of our country's ethnic groups is generally Asian, and even they dropped down to only about 83 years. So everyone has taken a hit, but the native populations have by far done the most. And I think that comes into what you're talking about with access to resources as
Right.
well as genetic conditions.
Yeah. And when we talk about this disproportionate hit, when we talk about Black people being hit in terms of life expectancy, almost losing an average of 5 years, the AIAN population, so Alaskan, Inuit, and Native American or American natives, and we're talking about 71.8 years, which was their average life expectancy in 2019, down to 65. So a 6 year drop versus maybe a 2 year drop elsewhere. And by the way, the Latin American population as well, suffering a really bad drop. This kind of disproportionate thing, it absolutely has to do with socioeconomic strata and, really bad drop off in access to care. But unfortunately, Josh, that also means that those folks were also hit hard by kind of, negative messaging, whatever it was on social media and that kind of a thing, where we in healthcare had to campaign harder for those groups to go get their vaccines because there was more of a pushback. In some cases, because of very well-deserved distrust of the government and anything kind of official because of our past.
Because of the horrible things we had done to their bodies.
Yes, yeah.
That's what we call a callback in the showbiz world. So
yeah.
Now let's get into some more of the spookier things about it. So if you were born before 2021, your average life expectancy still matches up with what it was for that year, minus whatever's been happening with your health since then. But in general, we're seeing a decline, which is concerning. So hopefully that'll turn around soon. Now, Santosh, we're in full on Spooktober season, and you're starting to see those decorations go up around town.
Oh yeah.
What are some of the traditional Halloween decorations that you tend to see? Like the most common family friendly classic ones.
Oh yeah. So you've got to set up your pumpkins, right? And if you've got your carving skills down, you're going to turn that into an awesome jack-o'-lantern. We used to put candles in there, but nowadays we have beautiful LED lights. And you can put up, witches and black cats, usually in silhouette on there. We have folks who decorate their lawn with false graves. And then if you really want to get into it, you have zombie arms sticking out of the dirt in front of the grave.
Look, I know you've been to my house. I'm asking you what's the easy, cheapest Halloween decoration to put up that you don't even have to go out and buy? It'll just exist if you take it easy for a few days.
Oh, like if you just neglect not to clean around the house and that kind of a thing and let the spiders do their job.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, to make that abandoned, creepy kind of look is, of course, the cobwebs.
Now, what if I were to tell you that the next time you run out of bandages, you could just reach for the cobwebs in your basement as an alternative, right? People love touching cobwebs. Think about how much we all flail around searching for them.
And I would also say that Peter Parker is a selfish little bastard because he made webbing and he could have been saving lives a whole nother way, but he just wants to swing around town, kicking rhinos in the behind and whatnot. You're selfish, Parker.
So cobwebs have long been thought to have antiseptic and antifungal properties. They were actually used in ancient Greece and Rome by physicians to make bandages. Now, we've looked in the past into using bugs and bug products on wounds. And supposedly, cobwebs could speed healing, reduce bleeding. They're thought to be rich in vitamin K. I'm not entirely sure why a spider would need that, but I cannot speak to its veracity or its falseness. But
well, we do know in our own body, Josh, that vitamin K is used for clotting, and in order to construct like fibrin clots and that kind of a thing and make tough type of fibers. Maybe it's the same kind of thing.
I guess. I just figure why have an anti-clotting in a spider web unless it makes it stickier. But either way.
Yeah. So it's a tough fibrinous kind of a thing.
Did you know that spider webs have been a huge component of folklore-based medicine and Ayurvedic medicine in India?
Cool. I didn't know. I haven't studied a lot of Ayurveda and folk medicine, despite my background. But that's
so apparently, there's the idea that spider webs have all these antiseptic properties and can entirely replace bandages has long been a component of, and I'm emphasizing folklore rather than traditional medicine in India. This is an unsubstantiated practice. So one scientist actually set out to study it. And they took the topical application of, so in the folklore style, it's spiderweb and this powder, Azadirachta indica. So the scientists made a biomaterial synthesized from physiologically clotted fibrin, bovine collagen, the extract of this plant, and mixed it all up with spiderweb as the raw materials. So engineered this bandage made of spiderweb.
Josh, did they harvest the spider webs from spider goats?
Oh my gosh, I hope so, but probably not.
If you can throw in just a little show note in there about our awesome fiber goat.
Spider goats,
yeah.
But the work analyzed whether this engineered bandage from traditional materials actually possessed any wound healing mechanisms. And they used software online analysis that showed that when they analyzed it, that bioactive compounds were present. Whether or not they would actively promote wound healing is what the purpose of the study was.
All right.
And it turns out that the antibacterial activity was found to be dose dependent, meaning a large bandage might actually provide some antibacterial, but just flinging your hands through a cobweb, unlikely to provide any infection protecting.
Sure. So we do have to harvest things appropriately. In probably even in the folk medicine, it has to be prepared properly and then applied in some sort of a prescribed way to the wound. It can't just be, hey, grab me that thing out of the corner and swap and off you go.
But the really interesting thing about this study, separate from my ties to it with spiders and cobwebs, is that this study from Jafari et al. Really focuses on the reuse of bio waste to turn into bioremediation. So it's looking to recycle more unused parts of animals. So collagen, which promotes tissue growth and makes it easier to remove infected tissues, promotes angiogenesis, could be obtained from sources like chicken, beef, fish in various forms. And I'm sure if you walk down, certain aisles at Whole Foods or fitness stores, you've seen collagen powder, particles, paste, gels, sponges. Now,
and that's nonsense, right? Because that's people actually trying to ingest the collagen. That's just going to be broken down in your stomach and turned into amino acids.
yeah, save it for your astronomy article, Paltrow.
Exactly.
Now listen, the reason that we don't tend to use bovine or beef and pork collagen is that they are more likely to be at risk for transferring, if present, spongiform encephalopathy, foot and mouth disease. There are ethical issues, certainly across regions and religions, who may not want to use animal products. But the distinct properties of these animal products, such as biocompatibility, low immune response, meaning it won't set your own system off against you, causing the least amount of allergy, and you can get it from the same things we get Jello and gelatin and things like that. Bovine collagen was noted to be particularly effective in this spiderweb bandage for second and third degree burns, as well as diabetic ulcers.
Oh, that's so cool. And we do have a background using this kind of a thing therapeutically. For instance, chicken, hyaluronic acid, is used for people who have joint degeneration in their knees. And it can be injected kind of like a lot of synovial fluid into the joints. And just like you said, Josh, inert, it doesn't cause any inflammatory or immune reaction. And people can last for about 6 months where they've lost cartilage in their knees, and you just have a substitute protein injected into that joint space, helping create a nice floating area so that your bone doesn't hit bone in your knee and you can go back to life for a while. So applying this to healing our Band-Aid is pretty intuitive. That's so cool.
So most of us, while we do have access to cobwebs, probably don't have a bunch of random pig and pork and beef collagen lying around. But if you can get it, in theory, you could synthesize a very large bandage, maybe mummy style, to promote wound healing. Now, let's move on from the ancient and skin and cobwebs to a little bit more of a futuristic, horrifying idea.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Santosh, are you tired of brushing your own teeth twice per day?
Boy, am I, Ron.
Well, science might have a solution for you. Tiny, shape-shifting microbots for your mouth! Because
Ew,
if
Ron.
Yes, home listeners, that's the focus of a new study from researchers at the University of Pennsylvania who created prototypes for nanobots, a confidence-inducing word that can change shape to form bristles for brushing, slide between your teeth to floss them, and we mentioned that they can also release antimicrobial substances to eliminate dangerous bacteria from your mouth.
Teeny tiny robots crawling around your mouth and doing your work for you. There's no way this thing could backfire for someone with a horrible, horrible Terminator phobia. I am adopting your robots are going to kill us for this, because replicants, like tiny replicating nanobots that can squeeze into tiny crevices like this.
In your mouth?
In your mouth.
Like, this is like the Terminator being shrunk down, Ant-Man style, to attack your teeth, your luxury bones, the part of your skeleton that sticks out of your face.
Just crawling around. Just brush your teeth. Just...
Yeah, right? How lazy do you have to be? I need a robot to brush my teeth for me. Just give up.
Oh,
Give
God.
up at that. So
if this is the reason why Skynet takes over like this, just this.
So the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved the use of iron oxide nanoparticles in the past for use in other biotech products, from contrast agents that get injected into MRI patients, as well as delivery systems for some drugs. So these nanobots, or these nanoparticles, have been on the market for other things, but we've never talked about just casually having them roam around our teeth and gums. So how does it work? Magnetic field-directed assembly of nano... This is just from the press release, so there's going to be a lot of language we may have to break down here.
Sure. Yes.
Magnetic field-directed assembly of nanoparticles into surface topography adaptive robotic superstructures, hereafter referred to as stars.
Stars.
Well, that's charming.
Yeah, they did a good job. Way to go, engineers.
So, magnetic guidance of stars for precision-guided biofilm removal. That's the cavity scraping or plaque scraping, and diagnostic sampling. And here's where it starts getting terrifying again. These structures extend or retract at multi-length scales to operate on opposing surfaces, rapidly adjust their shape, length, and stiffness to apply high shear stress. Stars can enter angled grooves or extend to narrow crevices, scrub biofilm from the surface, and produce reagents on site. It can also capture any escaping bacterial, fungal, viral, and matrix components for multiplexed diagnostic analysis. Oh, and in case you were wondering how did they test it, ex vivo human teeth. This is the Terminator Tooth Fairy. Scientists have real human teeth that they were running these robots over, and they're like, boy, we can't wait to get these in your mouth.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they had to test it on some sort of a, surface that is going to simulate what they're trying to clean off of, right? So they got donated fallen out teeth or teeth that were extracted, right? Then they painted a biofilm onto them. They assembled the teeth, and not like a whole row of teeth. Okay. This isn't like the engineers aren't in the back like,
I'm sorry. Were you there at the Tooth Fairy's factory?
No. I'm looking at their figures. They just assembled two teeth, just two of them, in a row. So you have a small mini surface. Why
are they so pointy?
Yeah, they're just incisors. That's why. And so they just put them side by side. So you actually have, like a crevice in between the teeth. And then, put them in. They painted a little biofilm on it so that it could pick it up. And then this is kind of the neat part, Josh. Do you remember, when your mom or dad would give you toys to distract you and stuff? Because, Josh, leave me alone for a little bit. We, as 80s children, used to have this one where you had iron filings that were in the middle of something, and then you could take a magnet and actually spread them out and paint a picture, or even, if you had an Etch-a-Sketch, which is made on the same principle, right? Iron filings, and then you turn the knobs in order to move the magnets underneath in order to pull up the iron filings in a row. So
you're saying they could clean our teeth remotely? Sounds kind of sketchy if you ask me.
It is. So you fill the mouth with the nanoparticles, the magnetic nanoparticles.
And we're not selling this.
No. And then the magnetic field is applied from the outside. So you put your head in the magnetic field, and then there's an operator that tunes it and move the magnets around. So those little nanoparticles, essentially like sand, iron sand, can scrape along the gums and the teeth. They can sweep away plaque and everything like that as they skid across your teeth. And then the final thing that you were talking about that it could collect, they can magnetically collect all of those nanoparticles out of your mouth. So imagine those stream of sand like just coming out of your mouth.
Will not.
Just coming out past your lips, and they can collect that into a little jar, and it'll carry with it all of your bacteria and all the nasty stuff. So you could potentially say, he has these streptococci and these fusobacteria and these porphyromonas and this kind of thing, and we can create a custom microbiome fighting and helping toothpaste just for you based on what we scraped out of your mouth with this little magnetic sand.
I mean, you could, or you could just look in my Amazon search history where I'm sure they've already collected all of that data about my microbiome anyway, based on my last 6 purchases and film rentals.
Yeah, but it is creepy to think about, hey, eat this sand, Josh, but don't swallow it. And the magnetic field just moves it around, and
No.
you feel the sand moving over your gums and teeth.
Now, my general distrust of artificial intelligence has been well documented throughout the 9 years that we've been doing this show.
Yeah.
But this is not entirely different to the way they help to steer, like the use of magnets to induce movement in medical treatment is not new. In fact, for at least the last 5 or 6 years, we've had capsule endoscopies and small micro robots that can be encouraged to go around. And we've talked about them in previous journal clubs. This would also be an excellent way to obtain samples closer to the root of a tooth without affecting the gums. These sterile sort of nanoparticles would not induce the same sort of auto-inflammatory immune response that you might see from a more organic bacterium or viral vector. So it is safer and less likely to cause new infections. For dental procedures, it could be done with greater control. There's a lot of good things about it for humanity in general. I still don't like it.
No, to be very fair, Josh, this isn't AI, right? This isn't the robots controlling themselves or having to think. So far, you do have to have an operator. The machines themselves, the nanobots, or I should say nanoparticles that are inside of in the mouth or over the teeth, they don't have any kind of robotic ability in and of themselves. Like there's no moving parts, there's no thinking to that thing. All of the movement is being done by the external magnetic field. And so far, that has to be done by a human operator on this particular test. They didn't set up a computer to try to trace these kind of things. But yeah, they can actually, so just brushing right, they can do those nice circular movements and that kind of thing. And the flossing is they can go between and all that kind of a thing. But yeah, clinically, they totally can. Instead of having to rip open your gums to get to the root, you can just have these little tiny particles get in between and clean without causing all the peripheral damage. That'd be so cool.
Like ghosts or demonic possession.
Beelzebub, enter the patient's mouth and retrieve the microbiome and polish their incisors while you're in there.
Ooh, it tickles my tongue.
And then Beelzebub is happy to do it because he gets his jollies off of that.
Right. So now that we've talked about bandaging your cuts with webs and skin products and robots taking over your teeth, we've gone from the future, we've gone to the past. Now I'm going to tell you something that isn't so much horror as something that we never really thought about.
Okay.
When you take a pill, Santosh, for any reason, even a vitamin,
okay,
what are you normally doing? Are you sitting up? Are you touching your toes? Are you backflipping, somersaulting, laying in bed?
Sure. I personally, I do have to take medication in the morning. And what I'm usually doing is I'm standing up at my sink. So I'm, go to brush my teeth. I take my meds first in the morning, and I'm usually standing up straight.
You're doing it wrong.
Oh no.
Standing up, maybe, because researchers at Johns Hopkins University recently performed one of the most complete simulations of the human stomach and how it absorbs drugs, and it turns out that your posture affects the pills you take.
Oh, neat. Oh, so I'm guessing not the action, but how it gets down into your stomach and intestines and get absorbed and stuff.
Well, kind of the action, because the next time we have Eleanor back, our space pharmacist, we can talk about the pharmacokinetics of drug absorption. And if it takes place over too long a time, insufficient amounts of a medication will be released and the drug will not have its intended effect. Similarly, if you're somebody with a digestive condition like a gastroparesis or muscle spasms, that also can affect how a drug is absorbed and therefore dispersed in the body. So yeah, posture can affect whether or not a pill works. And now here's where it gets fun. Over the course of this investigation, I'll bury the lead. They found that leaning to your right at a roughly 45-degree angle. I'll wait. Go ahead and try it.
It's a 45 degrees to the rest of your body.
Yeah, 45 degrees to the right.
So that's not easy. You have to be pretty flexible.
That can cut in half the time it takes for a pill to dissolve compared to an upright posture. Conversely, lying down on your left side is the worst possible posture. Something to keep in mind for those of you who take pills right before going to bed. And that lying on your left side can cause pills to take up to 5 times longer to dissolve than in an upright position.
5 times? Holy crap. So when you and I, Josh, think about like the half-life of a drug or the absorption of a drug, sometimes we are talking about on the absorption of a drug, maybe 30, 40 minutes, an hour. Like you're talking about going from like an hour for the actions to kick in to like 5 hours. Like that's crazy.
We'll make it simple. We'll put this in context. One of my favorite pharmacofacts to talk about with my med students is the famous pharmacodynamics and kinetics of everybody's favorite water pill, furosemide, also called Lasix, so named because it lasts 6 hours as an effective half-life.
Oh, that's pretty good. I like that. You've told us this before on the podcast. I love it.
So if you take a pill and you're lying on your side, 6 hours to dissolve. Now, if a pill takes 6 hours to dissolve and it 5 times longer, that half-life is already pretty long. Probably not going to significantly affect your ability to absorb Lasix regardless of what position you're lying in. But for something like nitroglycerin or or nitrate-based medications that are supposed to be absorbed very quickly.
Right. So this is why, Josh, we do have sublingual formulations and that kind of a thing. So we bypass this a little bit because we're able to deliver it straight into the bloodstream from these very prominent blood vessels that are just in your mouth, like under your tongue. If we're able to formulate it that way, most drugs we cannot formulate that way. And often you don't want it to. You want a slow, steady absorption after breakdown. But Josh, this could really affect care because if you're saying that, a person is not so bad in your hospital, for instance, because usually we're talking about an adult patient with Lasix, although we use it in kids, of course, but you say, okay, I need to give this Lasix, but I don't need to give it IV. I expect it to work in, so far. And so you're expecting to see a reduction in their water weight and you're tracking their ins and outs, but you might be fooled into saying that like, oh my God, the furosemide isn't working. Your patient is in heart failure. And maybe you give it again or you give too much, but all you would have to do is wait because their posture is off. I mean, amongst other things.
So since the stomach has an asymmetrical J sort of shape, and I love that the organ that drives so many of my actions is shaped like my name.
Yeah. Yep.
But the idea is because of its anatomy, pills can end up in different sections due to gravity depending on your posture. Are you slouching? Well, now maybe it's angled a little bit forward. Are you standing straight? Are you leaning to that 45-degree side like James Dean?
Yeah.
Now,
Without the cigarette, though. Without the cigarette.
the fact that your posture could maybe have an effect on your absorption has been known to doctors for some time. Just like you said, like, oh, yeah, I guess that could make sense. But how significant the effect was really anybody's guess. So
I love that they actually undertook a study to prove this, and there are beautiful illustrations on the website that you put in our show notes that actually illustrate the transit time through the intestines and how it goes and everything else like that with axis markings and things like that. It is so cool.
So they tested, once they had built this stomach model, they tested the four most common postures, which are standing completely upright. So I already know that's a lie. It's really standing mostly upright with a slight slouch because
Yeah.
life has beaten you down. But that's a long sentence to put in a scientific journal.
Yeah.
So we're just going to say standing completely upright,
Yeah.
leaning or lying at a 45-degree angle to the right,
Yeah.
leaning or lying at a 45-degree angle to the left, or lying flat on your back.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
the researchers found, on average, it takes a pill 10 minutes to dissolve on the right side at that 45-degree angle, compared to 24 minutes to dissolve in an upright posture,
Okay.
over 105 minutes when laying on the left side,
Wow. Okay. Okay.
and laying straight on the back was largely tied with standing upright at about 25 or 26 minutes.
Dude, if your pill's not working, stop you standing. Do the rock away. Lean right.
Lean right.
Ah, dude, this is so cool. So there's definitely, especially in the hospital, but also at home and everything else like that, this is advice that physicians and pharmacists, nurses, we should be giving our patients, because this could really, really mess with how these folks absorb their medications and whether or not it works, especially on time. And then we really care in medicine about the spacing of how the doses goes, because we're estimating for the half-life and the action of the drug. So if we're not accounting for this factor, which is pretty important, that's huge. And Josh, we do have patients who they're upright, they're ambulatory, they're able to lean right and lean right if they need to. But there are definitely others that are supine. They're on their backs all the time because they can't get up, because they might be in various levels of consciousness, and we feed them their meds through something like a gastrostomy tube. And in those cases in the hospital, it may actually be really important for us to kind of posture them properly. Not all the time, because we have to move them around so they don't get bed sores, but especially during administration of medications. This is really important.
I think it expands the field of knowledge, and now when you take your pills in the morning, I'm picturing you being like, now I got to do a yoga pose just to make sure this works on time.
Yeah, you gotta go with the terror squad, man. You gotta go with Fat Joe. You gotta lean right. I don't care, man.
So the body horror of things that can be done by you, but I do want to close out this last one, which I feel like fits with the body horror motif because it horrified this body. It's time for the mini segment, TikTok medicine. Don't.
Oh God, Josh, do we have to?
Yeah, no, we really do, Santosh.
Oh,
because
okay.
If it shows up in my TikTok feed and I let it go unaddressed.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
So let me ask, Santosh, have you heard of Sleepy Time Chicken?
No. Do I want to?
What if I told you NyQuil chicken challenge.
Dude, don't. No, come on. Like, is this like, okay, so you have a chicken sandwich and you chase it with NyQuil or something, and
Oh God,
what's it
no! It's
supposed to do?
even
Like
worse.
mess with you? Like it makes the NyQuil work better, or you get high off the I don't. What, Josh? No. What else could that possibly be?
It's so much worse than that. Every time I think humanity reached peak cringe with the Tide Pod challenge. So now,
Okay.
now I want to say, in terms of media responsibility, a lot of these hashtags have been scrubbed, so you can't go looking. Like, it's an effort to look for this, which is good. It should be. We
Yes.
don't want this being generally disseminated, but if you've
Okay.
come across, people typically pour an entire bottle of NyQuil into the pan in which raw chicken is being cooked. This means the
Dude.
chicken, no, it gets worse. Let me finish. This means the chicken is being marinated in high doses of NyQuil. They
What?
then, on completion, they cook it till it takes on a slight blue tinge. Then they pour the remaining NyQuil back into the NyQuil bottle and put it away. Let's
What?
talk about the many, many poor life decisions involved in every stage of this.
No, but why? What's the why?
Why would you do the milk crate challenge? Why would you eat a Tide Pod? Why would you do anything on social
Well,
media?
okay. Tide Pod. Okay, fine. They look a little bit like candy, and you're just daring people because you already know that this is going to hurt you. Milk Crate was the one where you drink a ton of milk,
Santosh,
right?
let me stop you right here. We've had a former
Yeah.
leader of this country encourage people to drink bleach. I'm really not surprised at what
Oh.
teenagers with social media accounts may come up with for clout. Now,
Which
going
okay, wait,
into
really quick. To be very fair, okay, this isn't like a ton of teenagers and stuff that go out and do this. Usually,
it better not be.
the number of people who actually go and do this is usually overblown. Yeah,
But let's talk about why it's a bad idea, regardless of whether or not you wanted to do it. So
sure.
the average serving size of NyQuil is about 30 milliliters.
Serving
30.
size.
Well, we're using culinary terms.
Yeah, sure.
So
Okay.
the average serving size is 30 milliliters, or about 2 tablespoons, up to every 6 hours. A full
Okay.
bottle contains about 350 milliliters, so at least 10 servings worth.
Okay.
So there's the first problem.
Yeah.
Overdosing.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Okay?
But
That's
and these
problem number one of many. We'll continue.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
There are a bunch of different formulations of NyQuil. There's NyQuil D, well, that's actually Robitussin. There's NyQuil Daytime, NyQuil Sleepy Time, etc. Most of these contain some version of acetaminophen, which is Tylenol, dextromethorphan, which is a cough suppressant, and doxylamine or phenylephrine. Tylenol is a pain reliever and fever reducer, but when taken in extensive doses, it can cause complete liver failure to the point that your liver can't regenerate. So sleepy time chicken could straight up kill you. That's just from the Tylenol.
Whoa. Okay.
All right. Dextromethorphan is a cough suppressant, but one that acts on our cardiac system. So it can cause heart palpitations, agitation, and hallucinations when taken in excess. A few years back, I think Reddit had a Benadryl challenge looking to get the hallucinations that killed several people because you shouldn't overdose on antihistamines.
Oh, dear.
Also, dextromethorphan affects serotonin levels, which means you can get serotonin syndrome. That's to go along with your liver failure.
Yeah, from the acetaminophen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Doxylamine, that third component in NyQuil, is an antihistamine, like Benadryl, that can cause sleepiness, dizziness, and just like the dextromethorphan, a rapid heart rate and irregular heartbeats after high doses are swallowed.
Okay.
Phenylephrine, best known for medications like Sudafed,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
constrict blood vessels, which means an overdose can result in high blood pressure, headaches, and even heart attacks when used in high enough doses and not administered in a proper way. So let's see. Now you're marinating chicken until it turns blue, not a color chicken should be. That's problem number 6. Very minor in comparison, but blue chicken. Oh, and I also forgot. Eating the NyQuil chicken isn't the only concern. Inhaling the vapors while heating
as it's cooking. Oh my God. I never even thought of that.
So now you can destroy your lungs, your liver, your nervous system, your heart. Are there any others we're missing? Oh, wait. You're also concentrating because it's about like 50, 60% alcohol in their average NyQuil bottle?
Sure. Yes, yeah. Well, I'm guessing that a good amount of that will burn off.
Yeah,
because of the cooking, but
that's not the safety you think it is, because you know what happens when you're burning off the alcohol? You're doing what we call in the culinary world, reducing something, concentrating it, meaning removing the alcohol in which the medication is suspended, making it even more likely to cause heart palpitations, arrhythmias, serotonin syndrome, and an overload of your body's ability to process Tylenol, resulting in liver failure.
Oh, and by the way, all of these chemicals, these are small molecules, right, Josh? They're not like long-strand proteins or something like that breaks down if you cook them for long enough. They're not like bacterial toxins, which break down if you cook them properly. And by the way, not all of those. These are small, tiny molecules, and I don't know, but I'm guessing that quite a few of them are heat stable. And
well, even the ones that aren't, if anything, heat could accelerate and make it take effect faster or more powerfully. Remember, the pharmaceutical world is very carefully researched and engineered over years. They do not expect people to throw these around as ingredients and being the next top chef.
Is there any chance you could tell me why this was ever conceived of in the first place? Like, why?
No, and I'm not even going to try.
Okay, all right, fair.
The point being, if you are unaware, I'm going to assume, and the reason I feel reasonably safe talking about these is because I feel reasonably confident that most of our listeners are not going to hear this story and be inspired to run out and make sleepy time chicken. And that's because I feel like you listening at home are all very intelligent people. Mm-hmm. You have all, chosen to dedicate yourself to learning, and most of you are probably not teenagers, and if you are teenagers who come up with way better TikTok ideas.
There are so many better things to do. Oh my gosh.
That covers the last thing that should horrify you from this week, and that also, of course, closes out our journal club. For our spooky travel tip, I'm going to say find the nearest corn maze to you. It doesn't matter where. For me in Chicago, I will be going to the Richardson Adventure Farm, which has one of the country's largest corn mazes. This year, the theme is James Bond. I guess it would be on His Majesty's Secret Service now.
True.
We've just invalidated 60 years of James Bond's canon. So, going to one of the largest corn mazes in the world to wander around, get some apple cider donuts, and just soak in all that fall and autumn vibe.
Oh, man. The pumpkin spice is out, people. It is out.
So, Santosh, where's the nearest corn maze to you?
We like to go a little close to the valley. So we've got Tanaka Farms, which is in Irvine. There's Mr. Bones Pumpkin Patch, which is in Culver City. And ours that we go to most often is Underwood Family Farms out in Moore Park.
Oh, that's a good Halloween name, Underwood.
Underwood, yeah. So they have a beautiful family farm and they have all kinds of activities year round. For instance, going out and strawberry picking during the summertime, but it completely Halloweenifies when you go out there for your October fest and you're able to go $22 and, or $14 at the gate, free for kids who are 2 and younger. Lots of parking, and you can do the hayride and the corn maze and all the wonderful things. They've got amazing live music, Josh. And yeah, you can go take a pumpkin home with you. I would love for people to go out to Descanso Gardens right here in Glendale, California, and they have a beautiful event called Carved, Carved, where artists, Josh, absolute artists display the most beautiful jack-o'-lanterns you've ever seen. And nowadays, actually the last few years, they have live carving. So artists that are professional pumpkin carvers where you can actually stand and watch them make these masterpieces and light them up. It is an absolute delight to go to Carved at
Bring your spider webs in case they cut themselves.
Yeah, that's
and true. That's it for this week. As always, we love to hear your comments, questions, and feedback. This show is produced by me with a lot of help from Dr. Santosh and friends. Our theme music is composed by Rachel Leisure. If you heard ads this time and you would like to not hear them anymore, please donate and support us. We'll even throw in some bonus content for you behind the paywall. If you didn't hear ads, then I might have done this wrong, or you're helping to support us. Either way, thanks.
We're really grateful. We're absolutely grateful.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, until next time, as always, get your shot, wear a mask, find somewhere spooky, plan out some fun activities, and until next time, as always, happy travels.
Bye, guys.